This is an example of using a lead-in in an O intervals training. So in this example, I have 3 different intervals. They're all about 1 kilometer long, but you'll notice that they have this longer start run-in. In this particular example, that is around 400 meters. And you'll also notice that there's this marking here that shows where the orienteer can start looking at their map. And that applies for all 3 of those intervals in this particular example. So this is very similar to normal O intervals, but with this 300 to 400 meter lead in to the start triangle, the orienteer should be working physically quite hard by the time they get to the start triangle. And it's really important that they go really fast in that period. That makes the rest of the exercise really valuable. If you don't want to do a big lead in, then just do normal O intervals and just take the orienteering fast. This is a special kind of session that if you are going to do it well, then make sure you really exaggerate that lead in. Now, what this should do is force you into a state of physical stress, and that will cause your brain to be mixed between thinking about pushing hard and maintaining your speed and the navigation. So you're spreading your brain power across 2 tasks that, of course, is the major challenge of orienteering, is balancing that mix. And this gets you straight into that balancing act from the start triangle because you've already pushed hard to get there. And what you have to do in order to do this exercise well is be comfortable throwing out some minor details. You're going to have less brain power to think about the map, and so you need to have some good ways to simplify the map. Maybe you stop checking for small gaps and just go for route choices where you can see the gaps more obviously on the page. Maybe you take slightly wider routes because there's less detail to read, as is often the case with the straighter, more optimal route. You might also find that in an area like 345 down here, there are a lot of small paths, and you could go sometimes a twistier way or a longer way, and the orienteer has to figure out what they're comfortable doing. 6 to 7 is another example where there's a straighter way to go through all this detailed area and get the right gaps, and then there's a very simple way to come out, and maybe it's slightly longer, but it's really easy to execute well. So for the orienteer to know exactly what way is going to work best for them is important to develop that as a reflex. You need this to be really quick. You don't want to spend extra brain power having to plan what style you're going to use on the upcoming leg. You need to have this practiced in training in a setting like this, so that when you come into a race day scenario and you are under pressure and pushing hard, you're comfortable with the style of navigation that's appropriate for that particular setting, which will be different to the thorough navigation you could do if you were just jogging around.